project is an animated opener that would be placed on a website for an imaginary, soon-to-be-released motion picture. Close the 03n.mp4 file. Double-click the 03start.fla file in the Lesson 3 03 Start folder to open the initial project file in Animate. This file is an ActionScript 3.0 document that is partially completed and already contains many of the graphic elements imported into the library for you to use. You'll use all the animation functionality available in an ActionScript 3.0 document and then export an MP4 video file. From the view options above the stage, choose Fit in Window, or choose View Magnification Fit in Window so you can see the entire stage on your computer screen. Choose File, Save As, and name the file 03_workingcopy.fla and save it to the 03 Start folder. Animating Position. Lock all the existing layers so you don't accidentally modify them. Create a new layer above the footer layer and rename it City. Drag the bitmap called citybg.jpg from the bitmaps folder in the library to the stage. In the Properties panel, set the X position to 0 and the value of Y to 90. This positions the cityscape image just slightly below the top edge of the stage. Select the cityscape image and choose Create Motion Tween above the timeline. You could also right-click and choose Create Motion Tween, or choose Insert Create Motion Tween. Either way, a dialog box appears warning you that the selected object is not a symbol. Motion tweens require symbols. Animate asks if you want to convert the selection to a symbol so it can proceed with the motion tween. Click OK. Animate automatically converts your selection to a symbol with the default name Symbol1 and stores it in your library. Animate also converts the current layer to a tween layer so you can begin to animate the instance. Tween layers are distinguished by a special icon in front of the layer name, and the frames are tinted gold in the timeline. Move the blue playhead to the end of the tween span at frame 191. Select the instance of the cityscape on the stage, and while holding down the Shift key, move the instance up the stage. Holding down the Shift key constrains the movement to the vertical or horizontal direction. For more precision, set the value of Y to 0 in the Properties panel. A small black diamond appears at the end of the tween span. This indicates a keyframe at the end of the tween. Animate smoothly interpolates the change in position from frame 1 to frame 191 and represents that motion with a motion path on the stage. Drag the playhead back and forth at the top of the timeline to see the smooth motion. You can also choose Control Play or press Enter Return to make Animate play the animation. Previewing the animation. Click any of the playback buttons on the controller above the timeline to play, stop, or step forward or backward one frame. Hold the step forward or step back to move the playhead to the last or first frame. Select the loop button to the left of the controller, and then click the play button. The playhead loops, allowing you to see the animation over and over for careful analysis. You can move the start and end markers in the timeline header to define the range of frames you want to see looped. The playhead loops within the marked frames. Click the loop button again to turn it off. Changing the animation duration. With the selection tool selected, move your mouse pointer close to the end of the tween span in the city layer. Your pointer changes to a double-headed arrow, indicating you can lengthen or shorten the tween span. drag the end of the tween span back to frame 60. Your motion tween shortens to 60 frames, reducing the time it takes the cityscape to move. Move your pointer close to the beginning of the tween span at frame 1. Drag the beginning of the tween span forward to frame 10. Your motion tween begins at a later time, so it now plays only from frame 10 to frame 60. Adding frames. Move your pointer close to the end of the tween span. Hold down the Shift key and drag the end of the tween span forward to frame 191. Make sure the tween span is not selected. The last keyframe in the motion tween remains at frame 60, but Animate adds frames through frame 191. Moving keyframes. Click the keyframe at frame 60. The keyframe at frame 60 is selected. Begin dragging the keyframe. A tiny box appears next to your mouse pointer, indicating you can move the keyframe. Drag the keyframe to frame 40. Now, because the last keyframe in the motion tween reached earlier in the animation, the motion of the cityscape proceeds more quickly. Animating transparency. Move the playhead to the first keyframe of the motion tween at frame 10. Select the cityscape instance on the stage. In the color effects section of the properties panel, choose alpha from the style menu. Set the alpha value to 0%. The cityscape instance on the stage becomes totally transparent, but you can still see the blue bounding box around it. Move the playhead to the last keyframe at frame 40. Make sure the cityscape instance on the stage is still selected. In the Properties panel, in the Color Effects section, set the alpha value to 100. The cityscape instance on the stage becomes totally opaque. Preview the effect by choosing Control Play or pressing Return or Enter. Animate interpolates the changes in both position and transparency between the two keyframes. Animating filters. Make sure that the Actors Layer folder on the timeline is visible. Unlock the Woman layer. Move the playhead to the beginning keyframe of the motion tween in the Woman layer at frame 23. Select the instance of the woman on stage. You won't be able to see her because she has an alpha value of 0%, which is totally transparent. In the Properties panel, click the Add Filter button in the Filters section and choose Blur from the menu to add a blur to the instance. In the Filters section, select the link icon to apply equal values to the X and Y directions, and set the blur X value to 20. The blur Y value also changes to 20 pixels. Move the playhead along the entire timeline to preview the animation. The woman is blurred throughout. Select frame 140 in the woman layer and choose Insert Keyframe above the timeline. Animate establishes a keyframe at frame 140. Select frame 160 of the woman layer and choose Insert Keyframe above the timeline to add another keyframe. Select the Object tab of the Properties panel. In the Properties panel, change the value of the blur filter to X and Y of 0. The blur filter changes from the keyframe at frame 140 to the keyframe at 160. Animate creates a smooth transition from a blurry instance to an in-focus instance. Animating transformations. Lock all the layers on the timeline. Insert a new layer inside the Cars folder and rename it left_car. Select frame 75 and insert a new keyframe. Drag the movie clip symbol called car left from the library panel to the stage at frame 75. Select the free transform tool. Transformation handles appear around the instance on the stage. While holding the shift key, drag a corner handle inward to make the car smaller. In the properties panel, make sure the width of the graphic is about 400 pixels. Move the car to its starting position at an X value of 710 and Y of 488. In the Properties panel, in the Color Effects section, choose Alpha from the Style menu. Set the alpha value to 0% to make the car totally transparent. Choose Create Motion Tween from the button above the timeline. The current layer becomes a tween layer. Move the playhead to frame 100. Be sure the transparent instance of the car on the stage is selected, and in the Properties panel, change the alpha value to 100%. A new keyframe is automatically inserted at frame 100 to indicate the change in transparency. While holding the shift key, drag a corner handle outward to make the car larger. For more precision, use the Properties panel and set the dimension of the car width to 1380. The height should be around 445. Position the car at an X of 607 and a Y of 545. You've used Animate to tween the change in position and the change in scale, as well as the change in transparency from frame 75 to frame 100. Move the left car layer in between the middle car and right car layers. The car in the center should overlap the cars on the sides. Save your progress so far in this document. Moving the animation of the cars. Lock all the layers except for the layers in the Cars folder. Select and hold the Edit Multiple Frames option above the timeline and choose All Frames. Brackets appear in the timeline indicating the span of frames that will be editable. The All Frames option automatically puts the brackets at the beginning and end to encompass all the frames of the timeline. Choose Edit, select All. All the frames in the layers of the Cars folder have become selected. While holding down the Shift key, drag the selected group of cars to the left of the stage. Move the group so they're generally centered on the stage. You're actually moving multiple instances in multiple keyframes across all three layers at the same time. Deselect Edit Multiple Frames. Scrub the timeline from frame 70 to 191. The three cars remain animated with the change in size, color effect, and position, but they have been moved to the center of the stage. Save your work. In this next section, you'll work on a different file. Splitting a motion tween. In the left car layer, select frame 101, the frame just after the second keyframe where the car ends its movement. Right-click on frame 101 and choose Split Motion. The motion tween is cut into two separate tween spans. The end of the first tween is identical to the beginning of the second tween. In the middle car layer, select frame 94. Right-click and choose Split Motion. This cuts the motion tween into two separate tween spans. In the right car layer, select frame 107, right-click, and choose Split Motion. The motion tweens of all three cars have now been split. Applying eases to motion tweens. In the middle car layer, select any frame between the first and second keyframes, from frame 70 to frame 93. In the ease section of the Properties panel, enter 100 for the ease value. This applies an ease out to the motion tween. In the left car layer, select any of the frames between the two keyframes from frame 75 to frame 100. In the Properties panel, set the ease value to 100 to apply an ease out to the motion tween. In the right car layer, select any frame between the first and second keyframes of the first motion tween from frame 78 to frame 106. In the Properties panel, enter 100 for the ease value. This applies, again, an ease out to the motion tween. Select Loop at the top of the timeline panel and move the start and end markers in the timeline header to frames 60 and 115, respectively. Click play or hit enter or return. Animate plays the timeline in a loop between frames 60 and 115, so you can examine the ease out motion of the three cars. Inserting a new keyframe. In the Library panel, double-click the car right movie clip symbol to examine its completed frame-by-frame animation. Inside the car right movie clip, 3 keyframes establish 3 different positions for the car and its headlights. The keyframes are spaced unevenly to provide unpredictable up and down motion. In the Library panel, double-click the car left movie clip symbol. You enter symbol editing mode for the car left symbol. Select frame 2 in both the lights layer and the small rumble layer. Choose Insert Keyframe. Animate inserts a keyframe in frame 2 of the lights layer and the small rumble layer. The contents of the previous keyframes are copied into the new keyframes. Changing the graphics. In frame 2, select all 3 graphics, the car and its 2 headlights. You can use Edit Select All or Command A, Control A. Move them down the stage by 1 pixel. Use the Properties panel to decrease the Y position value by 1 pixel, or press the down arrow key to nudge the graphics by 1 pixel. The car and its headlights move down slightly. Repeat the process of inserting keyframes and changing the graphics. For random motion like an idling car, use at least 3 keyframes. Select frame 4 in both the lights layer and the small rumble layer. Choose Insert Keyframe. Keyframes are inserted into frame 4 of the lights and small rumble layers. Select all 3 graphics on the stage and move them up the stage by 2 pixels. You can use the Properties panel or the up arrow on the keyboard. The car and its headlights move up slightly. You now have 3 keyframes for both layers inside the movie clip. Test the idling motion by enabling the loop option at the top of the timeline and clicking play. Animating 3D motion. Click the back arrow in the edit bar to return to the main timeline. Insert a new layer at the top of the layer stack and rename it Title. Lock all the other layers. Insert a new keyframe at frame 120. Drag the movie clip symbol called Movie Title from the library and onto the stage. The movie title instance appears in your new layer in the keyframe at 120. Position the title in the empty sky at an X of 180 and a Y of 90. With the movie title selected, choose Create Motion Tween. Animate converts the current layer to a tween layer so that you can begin to animate the instance. Move the playhead to frame 140. Select the 3D rotation tool. This tool is hidden in the additional tear-off tools at the bottom of the toolbar, so you'll have to add it to your toolbar to use it. The 3D rotation controls appear on the selected movie clip. Deselect the Global Transform button at the bottom of the Tools panel to put the 3D rotation tool into local mode. Drag the left arm of the green Y control to rotate the title around the Y axis, to angle it so that it seems to recede into the distance. The angle is about -50 degrees. You can check the rotation values in the Transform panel. Move the playhead to the first keyframe at frame 120. Drag upwards on the right arm of the Y control to rotate the title around the Y axis in the opposite direction, so the instance appears like a sliver. The change in 3D rotation becomes a motion tween, so the title appears to swing in 3 dimensions. Exporting your final movie. Choose Quick Share and Publish, Publish, and Video. Click Publish. Adobe Media Encoder automatically launches and your project is exported and added to the queue for processing. The encoding process begins automatically. If it doesn't, click the Start Queue button, the little green triangle, or press Return Enter to begin the encoding process. Media Encoder converts the project file into an H.264 formatted video with the standard MP4 extension and notifies you when the process is finished. Congratulations, you're done. The final file can be uploaded to your favorite video sharing sites or put up on a promotional website for the fictional cinematic release.